Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the 2024 Global PAD Impact Awards, brought to you by the Global PAD Association. It is a privilege to introduce a pioneering leader in cardiology who is our esteemed recipient of the Global Interventional Cardiologist of the Year Award for his relentless pursuit of innovative treatment strategies that have significantly advanced PAD care. His commitment to advancing patient care is evident in his adoption of novel treatment approaches that reduce repeated interventions, that's so important, minimize amputations, very important as well, and enhance patient outcomes, as well as ultimately improving their quality of life. Now, recently, this physician has been involved in studies that don't just simply argue for his limitations or that of others, but instead truly explore new ways to treat PAD more effectively and safely, including the use of advanced imaging techniques to guide treatments, making them more precise with fewer complications. In addition to his clinical work, Dr. Lichtenberg is so passionate about educating people about PAD. He participates in initiatives to raise awareness about the disease, stressing the importance of prevention, early detection, and advanced treatment. At the heart of his practice, however, is his unwavering deep commitment to patient-centered care. The award recipient is known for his empathetic approach to communicating with patients, ensuring that they feel heard and involved in their treatment decisions. His ability to connect with patients on a personal level, it's a cornerstone of his success. So without further delay, it is with great pleasure to introduce Dr. Michael Lichtenberg, a visionary in the treatment of peripheral artery disease, the recipient of the Interventional Cardiologist of the Year Award for 2024. Dr. Michael Lichtenberg, congratulations, and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. It's a true honor and a pleasure to be here today. Thank you very much.
What was it like sitting there listening to me talk about all your amazing achievements? Not only what your peers are saying, what I've observed, my team's observed, and also, most importantly, what patients are saying about you and your care.
Yeah, it's great to hear. Of course, it's fantastic, and I think it really reflects my love for this PAD work and our patients we are treating here. But I would definitely like to state from the beginning on this is not a prize for me. This is a prize for my team and myself. We are working together here with 20 physicians. We are working here as a team approach to help and treat patients with peripheral artery disease. So therefore, I would clearly state this prize is not an individual prize for me. It's a team prize for my whole team for taking care.
Whoops, you need to unmute. You hit the mute button. And it was right there in the most important part, talking about your team.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say is that it is so important to really know to say that it's a prize for my team, for the teamwork. We are trying to do our best here with 20 physicians, many nurses, wound care specialists, our study nurses, study coordinators. It won't be possible without such a team. And therefore, this prize is definitely dedicated to the whole team. And this I definitely want to state from the beginning of our discussion.
And I think that we need more of a team approach. And it is one of the reasons why you were selected as well, your multidisciplinary approach. Talk about the critical members of a team in treating someone with PAD.
Yeah, you are so right. You can't treat a PAD just from one perspective. You need to stop, in the past, we had so many turf battles. Who is treating the patient? Who's taking care of the patients? Forget about that. We need different specialists to see the patient as whole, to see the disease as a whole, and working on this critical limb ischemia patient as a team. So you need wound care specialists, you need vascular surgeons, you need radiologists for a non-invasive diagnostic, you need the endovascular specialist, you need the diabetologist. So many people are needed to treat such a very complex disease. And I think this is my statement, yeah. And this is what the future should be, yeah. It's not like this, yeah. You have to take it as a whole thing, bringing all the specialists together. The complexity is so severe of peripheral artery disease. Without a team approach, you are not able to deal with peripheral artery disease.
And you said it, I didn't, in terms of the turf war. But it is something that's top of mind, across the globe, because there are more patients with PAD than there are specialists. And so we really can't afford, I don't care what practice they're in, we can't afford to lose even one. So we all do need to come together to come to some sort of agreement on how to treat PAD most effectively, as well as safely. And, that's what I love in terms of what you're doing. You're really working on that. But you are an interventional cardiologist, and that's very rare that we would find an interventional cardiologist treating PAD across Europe. And it's something that we find more here in the US, but the interventional cardiologists here have the problem with fighting other practices for treating these patients. And I'm curious, especially you being one of few, number one, how did you get involved with PAD, with probably very few people that are in the same practice as you treating PAD in your area?
Yeah, that's right. This is not something you can establish one day to another. It takes time. I think that's absolutely important to know. It's a day-for-day work and hard work to really find partners and to really satisfy patients' need. What I would like to tell you, I'm not just a cardiologist. We have a special thing here in Europe. It's called angiologist. So I'm a cardiologist and angiologist. So we specify in vascular medicine. So this is a very typical thing here in the German-spoken countries like Austria, Switzerland, and some other countries in Europe. So the angiologist is a typical specification where we especially learn how to treat patients with peripheral artery disease. And
Really?
it's a small community. We are only, I would say, 1,000 in Germany around. I had the honor to be the president of this German Angiology Society from 2020 to 2022. And what I try to do in these years, in these 2.5 years of my presidency, is to really stop this really bad turf battle thinking and discussion. And as you mentioned, we have to bring, all the specialists from the world, like you do, yeah, on congresses, on meetings. Yeah, we need networking to improve the care, the technology, the techniques we can offer our patients. We can only learn from each other. Yeah, we can learn from the US physicians. We can learn from Asia physicians. They're so fantastic in techniques, and I learned so much from friends in Japan and China, as well as many friends in the United States. Yeah, so it's a global approach for global disease, and I can tell you, this global disease, we are seeing a much bigger wave coming up during the next years and decades. Yeah, more and more patients having diabetes, more and more patients are on chronic dialysis, more and more patients will therefore have peripheral artery disease. So we have to train young physicians. We have to come together. We have to stand together to train young physicians and show them how fantastic this work could be to save limbs and prevent amputation in patients with critical limb ischemia. And this is why we are here. That's why I really love what you are doing, actually, yeah, because this big wave is coming, yeah, and we have to do a lot to stop here a global burden which is coming the next years.
What are some of the protocols over in your area in Germany for testing for PAD? I know here in the United States, there is something called the ARC Act. It's still stalled out in Congress, where they want to make testing, an ABI test, available to anyone with high risk factors, but it's not really getting anywhere yet. I'm curious, what are the protocols there for testing for PAD, especially early on for those with high risk factors?
Yeah, I tell you what, a lot of people around the world think Germany is a high developed country. And I tell you what, ABI reimbursement in a family doctor's practitioner practice is zero. Okay? And now you know what we are talking about. ABI is not reimbursed as a screening tool for a general practitioner. Yeah? And this is what we are trying to really incorporate. We need dedicated screening tools. Yeah, just an ABI. Yeah, just an ABI, but which is not difficult. Yeah, and then send a patient who has risk factors, diabetes, smoking, etc., to a specialist. But if you are not able to even offer a patient with risk factors the simplest, easiest technique, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, just touch the patient. You can just feel their pulses, right? If you're
Right.
touching the patient head to toe, I mean, at least you're going to get some sort of indication. You're going to notice that one foot is even colder, maybe, than the other foot. You might notice that one might have more hair growth or less hair growth, or you might notice some scaliness on the foot, especially in a diabetic, some calluses, maybe a wound in between the toes that maybe even the patient didn't see. I mean, just touch the patient, right?
I fully agree, but why are we seeing so much patients with a D1 or whatever necrosis who are coming to our clinics? What is happening to these patients in the years or months before that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I don't understand. We have so many, we focus so much even here. We've had quite a bit of media that has come out, and it's been a real disservice to the overall practice and disease state in general, where they're focusing mostly on the treatment of intermittent claudicants, which you treat them and it's leading supposedly to some amputations. But that's taking away, great, okay, let's focus there. That's important. Let's, reduce the number of intermittent claudicants getting treated, but that's not what's leading to the greatest number of amputations. Let's keep our eye on the prize. What is leading to the greatest number of amputations? Number one, lack of early diagnosis. Number two, lack of even an attempt to try and restore blood flow to the point of amputation. But number three, which I think is, really important, which is these patients aren't even getting a vascular evaluation in the year prior to their amputation. That's a huge problem. And I don't see any true advancements being made in that, strides being made in taking care of this situation. Everyone's talking about it, but what's being done? And is there a light at the end of the tunnel? I don't even see a light.
Yeah, I fully agree. And this is so similar in every country. Yeah, it's not only a Germany problem. It's not an Austria problem. It's not an US problem. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. So I think our task, our job is to raise awareness. I think this is the most important thing. Yeah, to raise awareness, do patient campaigns, sit together, explain how life-threatening peripheral artery disease could be in a patient once he's on the level of a critical limb ischemia. Yeah, this is, I think, our task. And I definitely have to admit, I think we did not do a good job in the past. I think it's something we have to criticize ourselves. We have to definitely increase our efforts here to raise awareness and show patients, and especially patients with diabetes and all the risk factors, how important it is to prevent peripheral artery disease and to prevent amputation, even youngest. We had to amputate a patient yesterday, 45 years old, type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, he never took care of his diabetes. I know this patient since I'm here in Arnsberg since 12 years. We did hundreds of interventions, bypasses. But now we had to do a major amputation. Nothing to, we could not help him any longer. Yeah. And this is what we have to do. Yeah? We have to follow these patients over years. We have to raise the awareness, teach them. Yeah, your blood sugar control should be much better improved. Yeah, you should stop smoking. We're still smoking, unfortunately. Yeah, so it means we could not convince him, and now he's crying because he only has one left. Yeah?
Yeah, and he's probably going to lose the other, because it's
Sure.
just they just mirror him, and that's just what happens because he becomes less mobile, and especially over the course, a lot of times we see a turn in the other leg within weeks, even following the amputation of the one leg, other leg starts turning, right? And
Yeah.
so that's going to be a problem. I mean, your guess is as good as mine in some of the patients. You can't save everybody. There are still some of those patients that you just don't understand. They don't want an amputation, but they don't make that connection between what they're doing right now today with what they're eating, with the medication that they're forgetting to take, or they're saying, I'll just take it later, whatever it might be, or even that one last drag of the cigarette and thinking, oh, I'll quit tomorrow. Oh, I'll quit tomorrow. And then weeks and months go down the road. And it all adds up. And then suddenly they're there on deck for amputation and wishing that they would have made changes. But even then, once they get the amputation, they're still not making changes. And there's always those few patients that it's like, God, how do we get through? But one of the things that I thought you mentioned, which was so important, is that the lack of education on the front end for patients, especially with diabetes and chronic kidney disease. So many of my patients with type 1 and type 2 diabetes said they had never even heard of PAD until they ended up with a wound that wouldn't heal on their foot. They had no idea. When they would come and they would complain of any leg pain or any numbness or anything like that, the doctor would just say, oh, it's just your diabetes. Oh, it's just your kidneys. We need to get you on a more regimented, medicine or diet or whatever. But no one ever really talked about peripheral artery disease. And I don't understand. I mean, we even have, and this is a different situation, but we even have a famous former football player and now a coach for a big football team, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, if you've heard of him. And they just came out with an article. He's been suffering from what I think is peripheral artery disease. They've not called it, they've called it everything else but peripheral artery disease. They've called him hypercoagulable. He has had critical limb ischemia because, of course, he's lost several toes. And no matter what, all you hear him talking about is just blood clots, but guaranteed he's over 50. He has plaque in his arteries. He has atherosclerosis. I mean, who doesn't, right? And it could be the clots that are causing most of the problem, but wouldn't you still classify it as peripheral artery disease? They just came out with the article, and again, they called it a vascular issue, but wouldn't call it peripheral artery disease. And I don't understand why people are not calling it what it is. What is the fear of calling it what it is? There's only an upside to raising awareness about it. I don't know if you see that as well.
I see it as well, and it might be a political thing, maybe, and not to offend someone. Yeah, we try to initiate campaigns here against the cigarette industry, and we failed, for example. Yeah, so it's a political thing of taxes someone pays, and on the other hand, you're responsible for your own body, so you can decide on your own if you're smoking or not. Yeah, this is complex. Yeah, and I can tell you, as during my presidency, we tried to initiate here these discussions on a political way with our government. There was no chance. Yeah, as long as companies are paying billions of taxes, even for life-threatening cigarette smoking. It's difficult. So it's complex, and I hope someone after us, our kids or grandkids, could really solve this problem.
Yeah, I hope so. But we can just tell, I mean, your passion for helping patients and find, even find a cure, you really are deeply committed to patient-centric care and improving their quality of life. And it's definitely evident. I want to get into some of the research that you've worked on and how you've
Mhm.
contributed. But we do have Marcia who wants to jump in with a question, a clarification. Marcia, go ahead and unmute and ask Dr. Lichtenberg your question.
Hi, Dr. Lichtenberg, and congratulations.
And look at
Thank you
this,
very much.
she's out walking.
I am.
Great.
Yeah, I'm out hiking. Um, I was curious about your double credentials. I don't know what else to call it. I don't know if they're degrees or whatnot, but what exactly that means. Like, what is the second one? I don't think we're as familiar with that as maybe they are over in Europe.
Yeah, it's not easy to understand. I can fully understand this. So the name of this specification is angiologist, angios, the vessel. So this comes from Greece. So it means we are specialized in the disease treatment of vessel disease. Yeah. So just focusing on vessel, whereas the cardiologist is trained particular on an organ like the heart, of course. Yeah. So we are specialized a little bit more treating vascular disease, including all vessels. Yeah, the vein, the lymphatic system, the arteries. This is a special education, and within this education, you train and specify on endovascular disease treatment. Yeah, so you learn how to use endovascular technology to treat PAD. You can learn how to treat acute thrombosis. So all the things here. So it's a little bit more of specification.
Does that answer your question, Marcia?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
So I want to get into some of your, as an angiologist and cardiologist, I want to know, what do you feel is your most impactful contribution so far in the field of PAD?
Yeah, so PAD is, beside of a very severe disease, a super interesting thing. We still do not understand the full pathophysiology of peripheral artery disease, and we do not understand why this is a chronic disease which we are not able to stop. We can't give just one pill because we don't know what to stop. So we treat PAD, we implant a stent, we perform atherectomy, etc. But the disease is progressive. Okay, and the question is, why is that? Why we are not able to stop it? Yeah. So, and this is what we are doing here. We are trying to try to answer some of these questions. What could definitely help for a longer time to prevent the progress of peripheral artery disease? And therefore, I would especially thank here my study team. We have 8 study coordinators here. We have a physician in this study department where we at the moment perform around 28 studies focusing on this PAD problem.
So what exactly are your current research interests, and how do you choose them so that they're not arguing for your own limitations, which I see so often, but instead truly advancing PAD care?
So we are focusing here, especially on endovascular technology, new technology, to improve long-term patency, to improve or to prevent reinterventions. We see restenosis, we see reinterventions as a failure. I discussed a lot with Lorenzo Patrono about this. Is reduce a failure, or is it just a matter of the disease? I think as we are not able, until we are not able to really find the correct answer, I think it's still a failure. But we are improving a little bit. We have new technologies. We have drug-eluting balloon technologies, which I personally see one of the breakthrough things of the last years, because it definitely improved the outcome of the patient. So it's not only stent implantation. We have modern pharmacokinetics and pharmaco things to really prevent the disease progression. So we are focusing actually on that, new disease, new options for the disease treatment, new endovascular products. And this is what we are dedicated for.
Patients always ask about how physicians actually choose their research initiatives and how you balance innovation with patient safety and developing new treatment protocols.
Yeah, that's a good question. I really appreciate that. Before we start a study, we discuss, should we jump on this study? Does it make sense? Is it really good to perform this study? Does the patient has any benefit from that? Does the science has any benefit from that? So it's a team approach here, the team decision to join the study or to initiate the study. Unless we see a absolutely clear efficacy and safety improvement with this trial, we are not convinced to really perform this. So it's a team decision. Does it make sense or does it not make sense?
Yeah, aside from your current research initiatives, in your opinion, we talked a little bit about, some of the gaps in terms of getting people diagnosed, but what about in the actual treatment of it, endovascularly? Where are those gaps in terms of or limitations that you have in treating these patients? For example, you did have a patient that did need an amputation. Was it the limitations in the technology that's available?
Yeah, absolutely.
To treat?
Yeah,
it was.
It was absolutely. Yeah, this field of PAD treatment from an endovascular standpoint. Just think of the last 10 years. So many innovations were done, and so many clever engineers were able to invent new technologies here in this field. And this is something I really like in this field. There's not a day a new technology, a new option is provided for the endovascular specialists. And this makes it so exciting, this endovascular treatment field for PAD.
And I think that what you're saying right now, it gives patients, it's a little disconcerting that the treatments aren't there right now for everything. And people are still ending up with an amputation today that maybe even in 3 weeks wouldn't end up with an amputation with something that might become cleared, get their CE mark, get FDA clearance, whatever it might be. I see this all the time. We just heard about a technology from a company called Reflow Medical, and it's called their Spur technology, which seems like it could be a game changer for people with below the knee disease to have a retractable stent. The philosophy is, as much as possible, leave nothing behind so that you can lessen the potential for, that healing response, that restenosis, that leads to a revolving door of treatment. And here is something that, wow, don't you wish it could be here today so that more doctors would be willing to treat below the knee? Because a lot of reasons why so many doctors refuse to treat below the knee is because there are fewer options to create, some sort of long-term patient patency. And I'm talking even more than just a few months, right? You got to get past that 3-month time period to hope for maybe 6 months and then maybe a year. But below the knee, it's very frustrating still, isn't it?
I agree, and this is still a matter of debate to describe it that fact. Yeah, let me say there are. I don't want to be unpolite, but there are still old-fashioned people who think don't put a wire below the knee. Yeah, this is a field of vascular surgery. Come on, guys, this is not 2024. Yeah, we can do so much with a wire below the knee. We can really open vessels you will never ever get a bypass on. Yeah. So we have to be innovative. We have to see the new technology and we have to implement it in our daily routine practice. This is something I think is our job, to offer the patient the best available technology we have. Unfortunately, many political systems do not allow such an approach. It's not reimbursed, it's too expensive, etc., etc. This is something I heavily criticize. We can, of course, do POVAR every second month in a patient, yeah, for restenosis treatment, with what we do 20 years ago. But is this the fair approach for our patients? I don't believe so. Our patients definitely should get the best available treatment to prevent amputation. And this is something I really stand for. We are not pandas sitting on a tree, just being lazy. We have to be very open. We have to be open to new technology. And I think this is something what belongs to our responsibility.
And I think that when we're looking at, reimbursement, and we're looking at the cost, and even with revolving door of treatment, I mean, we have to go outside of the hospital as well to consider the costs on society, the costs on the family, the greater costs of rehabilitation and prosthetics and additional medicine. And there's so much more that is not being considered with, and patients always tell me, and I know there's a difference, but hey, I get the plaque cleaned off my teeth twice a year. It's a preventative measure. Why is it that I can't get my arteries rotated? Now, yes, risks are a lot higher. I'm not stupid. I get it. I get there's apples and oranges. But I also get that I have doctors that really do take a less is more approach. And if they can tiptoe in to the vessel and just kiss it with a balloon, just ever so slightly, just to give the patients that much more blood flow to give them relief so that they can walk to grow their collateral vessels and stay on their feet. I think there's so much value in that. Now, the patients do have responsibility, and they should be signing the contract to say, hey, if I open up this artery, are you going to walk? And are you committed to walking? But I do think that they should, be given the benefit of the doubt to get that artery opened and to get them on their feet.
Absolutely, but we have to be self-critical. Don't be a hero just for 1 hour or a week. I got a wire in there, ballooned, and then, hey, I was cool. I opened this artery. But after this 2 weeks, the artery blocks again, restenosis process. And then after 2 weeks, we have to admit we became a failure. So we failed. We were heroes for 2 weeks, and then we failed. So our approach must be to get this patient on his feet walking as long as we could. So it's our responsibility to offer him the best possibilities. Of course, it is his responsibility to use this chance, to take it, to walk, to quit smoking, to do whatever he can to lose weight, to get his diabetes controlled. We can only offer, like with our kids, we can offer them a couple of weeks, months, years, to show them the direction. We offer them the direction, go this way. But then it's their responsibility and not any longer our responsibility. So we have to be self-critical and not only blame a patient who did not stop smoking, because we had to do a better awareness. We had to see the patient more from an individual point, but we have to see us as a physician. Did we do the best treatment in this patient we can find at the moment based on the science we have? Yes or no? Don't be a hero just for a couple of weeks or what. Try to be even a hero for months or even longer.
No, and that's a big thing that the Global PAD Association is really focusing on is, hey, okay, great, you're going to go in for a procedure, but that's only a part of it. That's not the end all be all. We need to make sure before you go in for that procedure, unless it's an acute situation, right? We need to make sure, are your risk factors mitigated? Have we maximized conservative therapy? Have we made sure that you're on the right cocktail? We have so many patients that end up getting put on clopidogrel or Plavix, and they have a sensitivity to it, but no one ever notices until 6 or 7 procedures later, and they continue to clot. Well, they need a different antiplatelet therapy. Either the antiplatelet, either on a combination with a statin that is, not allowing the plaques to jump on the school bus, or they have a sensitivity to it. You like the way I put that.
Yeah,
But they have
definitely.
a sensitivity to it, right? And so they need to be on something else. They need to be on a Brilinta, right? And they just don't check that. And I think that more emphasis should be put on and have a checklist of, okay, conservative therapy. Okay, we've maximized, we've made sure that the cocktail we have them on is in fact the right cocktail for that individual. We need to make sure their diabetes is under control, because if you go in for a procedure on syrupy blood, what do you think is going to happen? It is within 2 weeks going to block back up. And so I wonder if there is more research being done on how to maximize and mitigate those risk factors prior to any procedure in order to maximize the procedural outcomes.
Yeah, there is, fortunately. Yeah. So there are specialists working on that, and I can tell you next week we have our annual Angiology Society meeting in Leipzig, east part of Germany. I can tell you, as I am the Congress president this year, we received so great and fantastic abstracts, especially about this topic. I'm really positive that the next future will really find answer for this topic. So it's great that so many, especially young physicians, are working on that. That's important.
So I'm guessing that you can't share what they found. So until it's
Nope.
actually done. So here's what I'm thinking is that this person that is presenting this, I'm thinking that you might want to make a connection after they presented so that we can do a follow-up on this. I'm sure I'm going to get questions because it is my number one interest, frankly. And I would love to learn more about I just want more data to find out, what more we can do. So if you have someone that has those answers, I definitely want to hear that presentation.
You will definitely get it.
Okay, perfect. So what are your hopes for the future of PAD care, particularly in terms of technological advances and patient outcomes? And let's talk even 6 months down the road to 5 years, let's say.
So I think the glass is not half empty, it's half full. Yeah. So there are upcoming ideas, technologies, projects will definitely give a light at the end of the tunnel. I personally believe. Yeah. To really get this light burning, we have to do a lot. We have to invest a lot. And I'm talking here about money investment. We need investment in these dedicated projects and these dedicated programs involving the societies. These are not government things. Yeah, the societies should drive these pathways together as a team society approach, not a tough battle thing. Yeah, not every individual society for its own. They should really cooperate here, implement awareness as their main driving factor in their programs, involve patient coordinators, involve patients with this disease, spread out the story. And then together with the industry, together with young physicians, with researchers, we can really create a good pathway to get more light in this very dark tunnel at the moment. And I think in a couple of years, we will definitely have much better adaptation prevention options. We are not dreaming. We do not even dream of at the moment because we don't know what we are dreaming of here. Yeah. So there are so many exciting things coming up. And therefore, I'm 51, and I'm happy that I will join a little bit this pathway, hopefully a little bit more, as we will see great things within the next couple of years until 2030, I think.
You're still so young, and it gives me so much hope that you have still so many more years because you've had such an incredible impact so far. And I just see so much greater impact ahead. And especially in talking to your patients, we've talked a lot about your research interests and the impact that you're having on a grander level. But you're also, with this award, we had patients come to us to say, hey, you really need to consider this guy because he really makes us feel heard. We feel like we're the most important person in the room when he's in there. He takes time for us, he listens. And I'm curious, just from, your perspective, was there a memorable patient where you've gotten feedback on your approach, your empathetic approach to care?
Yeah, I remember a patient. It wasn't really actually a long time ago. I think it was before COVID. A very young patient. He was, I think, in the mid-50s. He did a lot of mistakes. He was an ex-alcoholic man. He drank a lot, smoked, diabetes. But we were able to treat his severe peripheral disease with critical limb edema and prevented amputation. And I will never forget his sentence. Thank you, doctor. You did not treat my artery. You treated me as a subject, as a person, as a human being. Yeah, I said, yes. Actually, we are doing this every day, but I never thought about that. We are not treating vessels. We are not preventing restenosis. We are not doing atherectomy. We are treating a patient. Even if this patient is not always there when we operate on it, we just see on the screen a tibial artery. We are treating that tibial artery. We don't see the patient, but it's a patient there. Yeah? And from that point on, I really say, yeah, we have to be more individual, take the patient it is. And, we know we fail sometimes. Yeah. But if we take this patient as a human being and explain him the situation and not tell him, well, we are not able to open your artery, then this patient would probably understand it much easier than just talking about an artery. So treat the patient, not the artery. This is something I will definitely tell my students and my postdoc students. Take the patient as a human being and not as just his artery. We are treating human beings.
And one of your patients, I was really shocked and I have 7 of them that came forward. And one in particular just stood out in terms of what they were saying, that you really talk to them. So many doctors say it's not worth their time. Patients are uneducated. Patients hear this all the time. You're uneducated. You're not worth it. We have to talk down to you. We have to simplify things. We have to dumb it down. We have to bring it down to a 3rd to 5th grade level because so many of our patients can't read or blah, blah, blah. And I have found through our organization that when you actually reach them where they are and bring them where you want them to be and where they desire to be, they want to learn. They're not going to be doctors, but it doesn't mean they're stupid. It doesn't mean they're uneducated. It means they're differently educated. And you just need to talk to them, which she says, he talks to me like a human being. And he doesn't tell me my veins are my arteries and my arteries are my veins, or just talking it in general. Like, you really explain what the vessels are, where the blockages are, the percentage of it. And you also talk about what is their responsibility. But you don't just say, stop smoking. You talk about the mechanism of action by which the nicotine and the other chemicals actually cause damage to the arteries. And so many doctors say, well, I don't have time to do that. How do you find time for these patients to explain to them in language they understand and make them feel heard like you do? And what would be your advice for other doctors to be able to maximize that short amount of time to do the same?
Yeah, this is not easy, absolutely not easy. And it does not make like this and you learned it. Yeah? It's something I learned through my career, through my 25 years of practice. Yeah. So it's a step-for-step approach, and you need to have a good trainer. You need to have a good teacher who shows you this. And I had the honor, and it was great to be trained by one of the most famous angiologists actually in Germany, Wilfried Stahlhoff. He was one of the first men in Germany who started PAD endovascular treatment here. And he was my senior actually here a long time ago before I retired. And, he talked to this, he always talks to the patients tries to be on the same level. Yeah. And this is something I learned, and it was a real long-term thing to really get educated here. And this is what I try now to show my students and our young physicians. We try to talk to the patient, not that someone as a physician who's standing there and says, "Hey, you don't should stop smoking." Bring yourself down to a level a patient understands you and can really incorporate what you have just try to do on his legs, and try to understand how important it is to quit smoking and to improve lifestyle.
Yeah, and we have Marcia, who's in our live studio audience, who agrees with you. Explaining to the patient the consequences of their actions seems to her as critical as the most delicate of the procedures you can perform on them. So definitely thank you for taking the time for your patients. I have 4 more. These are our standard questions that we're asking every single doctor. So get ready for these big ones, okay? Number 1 is for our Journey to Diagnosis series. Share a case that had you scratching your head about how in the world this patient was not diagnosed sooner and what you wished would have happened differently with that patient. Or you can share the story of a patient whom you couldn't believe had other procedures and such done, such as a spinal fusion, when they should have been diagnosed with PAD originally. Not that they didn't have a back problem, but it wasn't the back issue that was causing the debilitating leg pain. So
Could
what
you
do you
repeat this? There
think?
was an interpretation.
So share
Could
a
you repeat it?
story. So share a story of a patient that, you know, you were so frustrated. Like, how in the world did this patient not get diagnosed sooner?
Yeah, unfortunately, we see these patients quite often. And, you know, when we start our interview here at the beginning, ask why do we see so many patients with the D1 necrosis? Yeah, what happened before? Yeah. And I remember once a patient, or I actually remember many patients said, yeah, showing this black toe to someone, oh, I don't feel really, I feel really not so well when I show this to someone. So I'm not going to my physician, to my family doctor, or my general practitioner. And this is something, also we need to educate. And I remember very well, a very old lady around 90. Yeah, she came into our office, super styled. Yeah, she looked great. Yeah, but she had a problem with walking. Yeah, and then she showed me a black toe, and she said, "I never showed this to anyone." What do you think my GP or my neighbor would have said to me if I showed this to someone? They put me in a nursery. Yeah, and I don't want to lose my life, just because of this, So that means that a PAD, critical limb ischemia, also stigmatizes patients, And this is something we also should educate the patient. No, you have just a disease. You have a disease, and you have doctors who can take care about it. So try to be at your general practitioner much earlier. Go to your GP whenever there's a small problem as a when you have diabetes. If there's a small one, see a doctor. He refers you to a specialist. Don't wait until this bone gets infected, etc., etc. So we have to get these patients out of a dark corner and show them, hey, you have a standard disease. This is nothing which stigmatizes you. Yeah. You need help, you will get help, and try to be a little bit earlier and try to cooperate with your GP earlier, then we can prevent amputation.
I love that. So our next one, it's for our 6 minutes that matter. It's just a spur of the moment in time that had an impact on your life. So don't get caught up in this 6 minutes necessarily, but share the 6 minutes that mattered in your career, a defining moment, a catalyst for change, something that led you in a specific direction. It could have been a conversation you had with someone. It could have been a scene in a show, a movie, a documentary. It could have been a moment where you witnessed something eye-opening. What was that one moment that made a huge difference in your career?
Yeah, it was actually many, many years ago. I would say it was around 2008, or maybe a little bit after this, 2009, after our second daughter came to the world, and our youngest daughter. And it's actually something my wife said. She said, "Hey, there's something you have in your hands. Yeah, why do you want? Why do you don't want to really dive into your angiology field with 100%?" Yeah? I said, we have now 2 children, and I don't know. And by that time, I was still a cardiologist, doing my coronary artery disease treatment every day, and and I said, yeah, but there's something burning in me. Yeah, I want to treat vessels. And she said to me, "Hey, this is your passion. Yeah, and why are you not going this way?" Yeah, but she gave me really strength and the support to do this. Yeah, I probably would have done this without the support of my wife. But this evening she said, "Hey, you have to do this." And then I applied for the job 2 years later, where I'm now the director of this clinic here. And this was because she told me, "Yeah, hey, you have to do it. Yeah, you want to do it. Your hands want to do it. That's your passion." And yeah, this is something I'm really thankful for, that she said this to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in this field otherwise.
Well, at some point, I want to thank her personally, especially the impact that you're having, not only, on your family, but you're having on patients, in Germany, but, also around the world. So please extend my personal heartfelt thanks to her for setting you free and encouraging you to follow your passion. So thank you. Okay, share a case with a big lesson for you and others. Describe the patient, the frustration with the case, and the lesson that you learned and others can learn from it. It could be a success, it could be a failure, could be including some ingenuity on your part.
Yeah.
Share that case.
So I told you about my partner, who retired a couple of years ago, Dr. Stahlhoff. He was a man. He never gave up. Yeah? He said, "I have to open this artery." It was in the morning he started with the case, and in the afternoon, after my outpatient work, he was still working on this page. "Hey, what are you doing there for the last 7 hours?" "I'm not giving up." And I tell you, don't give up. Yeah? So that's what I really incorporated, and I remember a case when I was still very young, just started here my job, and we had a very young refugee from Afghanistan here. He was 35, was a pretty good soccer player. Could have been something for a very good league to play there, but he had a severe vasculitis. And he was sent over from another hospital because of really a lymph-threatening vasculitis. And so we did our standard approach, performed angio, but we're not able, like the colleagues from the other hospital, to open any of his arteries. So he was already scheduled for major amputation below the knee, 35. Yeah. And then we think, hey, he's 35, we have to do something. And actually, this was the second patient then when we started venous arterization, so the lymph flow procedure, actually, and so where a vein becomes an artery. Yeah. And we did started this program here within a couple of days. Yeah, get all the stuff here, get trained within 2-3 days. Yeah, and performed a venous arterization to this patient. And what I learned here from this case, from my teacher, and actually from this patient, don't give up. Yeah, of course, there's always a point where you have to give up, but be sure that this point has always reached, that you don't give up before you succeed, and you're convinced that there's no any investment possible because that's the end of the story. And unfortunately, I must admit, in our daily routine with so many peripheral treatments, with the pressure, economic pressure we have in these days, it's difficult to try to reach this level. Hey, did we do enough here? Could we have done more? And I think we should not lose this. We should come back to this point as physician, say, hey, we have a responsibility. We should try to do all to succeed in this case, so that no one can blame us afterwards, especially me or my wife. Hey, why did you give up? This is not what we definitely said when we decided that you become an angiologist. So, and this is what I always have in my mind for my teacher and for my wife. Don't give up too early.
I love that. And it's so sad that you have to consider, sometimes the economics of it. And so many do give into it, but it gives us all hope when we see doctors like you that are literally saying, hey, let's put that aside. Yes, we have to be reasonable, but we really have to do what we can do to save this person's limb. But also, I love that you say that it's not just hey, is it not just what I can do, but is there anyone else that could do something different or better that could end up having the impact? Final question, and I know you have to get back to your rounds and such. I appreciate so much your time. And this is a new one that we're still trying to formulate. So we're testing it out on you. But since walking is the most important medicine, right, for patients, I think it's really important to hear from the doctor's perspective. A story about a patient that was able to use walking as medicine, or where walking made a huge difference. There may have been no option for this patient, but they took their health into their own hands based on your encouragement, your words, the time that you spent with them, and they had a huge impact to prevent an amputation or delay a procedure or prevent a procedure.
Yeah, actually, this is super important. So when you have peripheral artery disease, and I can give you so many examples, and try to exercise every day at least 30 minutes. I'm not talking about running or doing something you can't do, but just walking 30 minutes a day. You can actually achieve so much. You can really, really achieve not to be amputated. So this is something, unfortunately, I have to say, we are not transporting enough to our patients. We're just thinking of ballooning here, atherectomy there, bypass there. Oh, what about walking? So, and I have to admit, that we have to be better here in this field to teach patients that with walking you can reach a lot. And I can definitely, especially think of young patients where we've, implanted long stents before we had the DCB in our daily routine practice, and these stents came down. Then a bypass was operated. Bypass came down, and they still have a 30 centimeter blocked SFA. With walking every day, exercise every day, they came back to their normal life. Definitely not to a marathon or to the Ironman. This is not what I'm talking about. But they improved their quality of life. And for a human being, it is so important to understand being on two legs, standing on two legs, is one of the highest things you can definitely achieve. So many patients told me, if I would have known it before, what it means to sit in a wheelchair, I would definitely have done more different things. So keep walking, keep exercising, and prevent to be amputated.
Yeah, that's so important. I'd never heard it put like that, but yeah, the people that are in the wheelchair, if they knew what it was like to be in a wheelchair, that they would have done more. to walk to try and prevent it. Dr. Michael Lichtenberg, I am so appreciative of everything that you've done and you continue to do for patients. You are truly our global interventional cardiologist of the year for 2024 through the Global PAD Impact Awards. Well deserved. And I appreciate your commitment to patients and care, not only in Germany, but across the globe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And again, it's for my team, it's for my wife, it's for my kids. Thank you all.